Hassan Piker, beloved darling of the left, a Twitch streamer, the likes of which you have never seen. He is one of the most popular streamers on Twitch, and yet he does mostly leftist content, and I agree with most of his stuff, which is crazy. You don't see that a lot. He's one of a kind, truly one of a kind. I disagree with his takes on Ukraine. I wish that he were better about that, but otherwise I find him, tolerable. But he got into some trouble recently, meaning yesterday as of this recording. Brad Palumbo, leftist YouTube and Twitch star Hassan Piker, repeatedly tells his audience that if Republicans really cared about ending fraud, they would kill Rick Scott. He then has to Google what office Senator Rick Scott holds because he is very well informed. I also don't know what office he holds, but we'll get into it. We'll learn a little bit about our boy Rick Scott in just a second. Let's see what's going on here.
The president said over and over and over, we're not going to touch Social Security, Medicare, or Medicaid. We've made the same commitment.
What did he say about Ukraine that you don't agree with? He calls it a proxy state. He's, kind of agreed with like tankies on some stuff about it. I don't want to solidly say he stands one way or the other with Ukraine. I don't think he's ever like blatantly come out against Ukraine. He just has a problem with NATO. And so the fact that Ukraine wants to join NATO kind of rubs him the wrong way. And I think he could be better about it. What even is a proxy state? Well, I guess since we're into it, let's look real quick. I don't want to give a shitty definition. States sometimes use less powerful states as proxies, but more often use violent non-states, state actors, mercenaries, and other third parties, such as during a civil war. They may give their proxies money, weapons, training, or other help. So basically, it strikes me as sort of a puppet state a little bit, is what I'm getting. I don't have like a great definition of it, but my understanding is that it's not a good thing to call Ukraine. So sorry that I'm not the most informed on it. All I know is that Russia invaded Ukraine, and that is a bad thing to do, and I'm on Ukraine's side. That's all I know. Let's get back to this.
Now, that said, what we are going to do is go into those programs
like the stream.
Carve out the fraud, waste, and abuse and find efficiencies. Couple of examples. There's about $50 billion estimated that are lost every year in Medicaid just in fraud alone.
That fraud is not coming from individuals, it's coming from providers. They're not tackling providers. They're not actually going after like false billing.
Yeah, so that's the thing, right? I guess it's Elon Musk's administration now with his hand shoved up Trump's ass, is basically trying to say that there's a ton of fraud in Medicare, right? Or Medicaid. Because that way they can have an excuse to gut Medicaid and claim that they're actually just gutting all of the fraud and abuse, which doesn't make any sense. I learned this from Sam Cedar. If you were looking for fraud and abuse, you would hire more investigators. You would pour more money into it and hire more people in order to have those people investigate the fraud and save money. You would also go after companies that are committing Medicaid fraud. It's mostly nursing homes and hospitals and companies that are doing it, not individuals. But what they're trying to do is stick this idea into people's heads that actually it's the guy living next door sitting on his fat ass collecting welfare checks and Medicaid, and he's taking away your taxpayer money, when that's simply not the case. That's not happening.
They are trying to cut recipients, okay? It is not happening at the point of recipients. If you cared about Medicare fraud or Medicaid fraud, you would kill Rick Scott, okay? You wouldn't make Rick Scott, former governor of Florida, Rick Scott, you wouldn't make him the current, what is his current office? What is he? He's the Richard Lynn Scott, is an American attorney, businessman, politician, Navy veteran, serving as the senior United States Senator from Florida, a seat he has held since 2019. And also, I believe this past election cycle, he was literally the f***ing head of the, what was it, like the Senate committee or something, like the Republican fundraising initiatives. The reason why I'm saying if you cared about Medicare or Medicaid fraud, you would kill Rick Scott is because, and not make him a prominent part of the Republican Party, is because he to this day is still also known as committing the largest Medicare fraud in U.S. history.
So let's talk about it. Are there other ways that he could have worded this and gotten his point across? Perhaps. I'll be the first to admit it was a little sloppy, okay? Sure, you can make an argument that perhaps he could have worded this differently. But at the end of the day, this was a hyperbolic statement to get across the idea. The main underlying idea is not we should kill Rick Scott, okay? Which we shouldn't, because you shouldn't kill anybody because murder is bad and against the law, okay? So don't. But that was not the underlying idea of what he was saying. What he's saying is Rick Scott has committed a plethora of Medicaid fraud, and they wouldn't, if they were worried about Medicaid fraud, they wouldn't be going after him. Or sorry, they would be going after him rather than appointing him to any kind of office. Let's read a little bit about Rick Scott, just so we have an idea of who he is, because I don't really know who he is either. I'm not very well educated on this stuff, in all honesty. Let's see, member of the Republican Party, served 2 terms as the 45th governor of Florida. During his tenure as chief executive, what's the company's name? Columbia HCA? Columbia Hospital Corporation. During his tenure as chief executive, the company defrauded Medicare, Medicaid, and other federal programs. The U.S. Department of Justice won 14 felony convictions against the company, which was fined $1.7 billion in what was at the time the largest healthcare fraud settlement in U.S. history. Following his departure from Columbia HCA, Scott became a venture capitalist and pursued other business interests. He won re-election in 2024. Okay, so he is senior senator of Florida, is what I'm getting. So he's currently a senator in Florida. So that's Rick Scott for you. So, being that Rick Scott committed all this Medicare and Medicaid fraud, you would think the Republicans would want nothing to do with him. But lo and behold, they're defending him like crazy. Such to the extent that they actually went after, just like Brad Palumbo did. Brad Palumbo. He's the guy I was supposed to debate that one time. I never did. Maybe I should hit him up again. We'll see. The conservatives are going after him rather than going after Rick Scott, even though they seem to be very concerned about Medicare and Medicaid fraud for some reason. It's just very interesting. So Hassan Piker got banned from Twitch. He was banned for about a little over 24 hours. He says, "I'm sorry, I'll choose my words carefully next time and say if Mike Johnson cares about Medicare fraud, since he wants to cut $800 million from Medicaid/Medicare, he'd call for max punishment for current Florida GOP Senator / former Governor Rick Scott, who has done the most Medicare fraud in U.S. history." Now, this was genius wording by Hassan, in my opinion, because apparently there's nothing wrong with calling for the death penalty, right? Apparently. Our current politicians are totally fine doing it. If they get mad at us for doing it, then they're just, that's a blatant double standard, in my opinion. Rick Scott tries to rewrite history on $1.7 billion Medicare fraud controversy. Rick Scott's role in the Columbia/ACA scandal. In 2003, Rick Scott's company, Columbia HCA, the largest private hospital chain in the U.S., was found guilty of defrauding Medicare. The company was forced to pay $1.7 billion, a settlement that was the largest medical fraud fine in U.S. history at the time. Scott, who was the CEO, left the company with a $10 million severance package after the scandal. In a 2010 campaign ad, he admitted the company made mistakes, but pledged to take responsibility. Department of Justice, largest healthcare fraud case in U.S. history, settled. HCA investigation nets record total of $1.7 billion. And you can read over that if you'd like. So, just interesting that. He goes on to say, big shout out to right-wing free speech lovers who took the time out of their days screaming about DEI and immigrants to cry about this. True. I personally thought that we were big free speech guys in this country. I thought we were all about letting people say what was on their mind, not getting them in trouble, not canceling them, right? We're all about anti-cancel culture here in the United States, the land of the free, home of the brave, right? Say what we want, but apparently not when it comes to things that, we don't like those. We don't like those things that you're saying, so you can't say those. As I said, if this were a blatant death threat, I'd be against Hassan on this. You cannot make blatant death threats, but it was not, okay? He's just saying it how it is. Like, yeah, if they were really worried about Medicare and Medicaid fraud, they'd be going after this guy, but instead he's on their team. So that's just, interesting. Tim Pool had to chime in. It's a suspension. They call it banned, but he will be back on shortly. That's pretty true. He is back on. It's likely due to his calling on people to kill a sitting U.S. senator. He didn't even know Rick Scott was a senator. I didn't know that either. I don't really care. He did know about the Medicare fraud. So, at least he knew something more than I knew. Tim Pool loves that Rick Scott was caught overseeing the largest Medicare/Medicaid fraud in U.S. history and will defend the wealthy robbing you blind just as he'll defend Mike Johnson gutting Medicaid with lies. He's not independent. He's a bald partisan hack. True. And all he had to say in response was, "You crying." Good job, Tim. Brother from another mother, unfortunately. People say I look like him. And unfortunately, I think they're correct. It's not great. Anyway, Anonymous had something to say as well. Quite interesting that Hassan the Hun gets more attention for shit-talking Rick Scott than Rick Scott got for committing the largest Medicare fraud in U.S. history. Also a great point. The news articles are all about Hassan Piker, where are the news articles about Rick Scott? Like, oh, I thought we were all about stopping Medicare and Medicaid fraud. There's so much fraud in the system. He had a 1.7 billion dollar settlement, the largest fraud settlement in history. Like, come on. If people recognize social murder for what it is, this wouldn't be nearly as controversial. My guy, what are you saying? What is social murder? Way more buff? I agree that I am way more buff. Twitch is being accused of playing favorites after Hassan was unbanned just one day after being suspended for comments he made about killing politician Rick Scott. On March 3rd, Hassan Piker was banned on Twitch for a rant about fixing Medicaid in the United States. If you cared about Medicare or Medicaid fraud, you would kill Rick Scott, he said, which resulted in his brief ban. While Hassan claimed the statement was hyperbole and admitted he shouldn't have used the term kill in his criticism, many believe that the political streamer should have been more harshly penalized for his comments. Literally playing defense. I thought, listen, I'm not saying anything totally off topic here. I just think that Luigi is a great counterpart to Mario in the Nintendo franchise, okay? And I thought that we all loved Luigi, okay? How is that relevant to this? You tell me. That's what I thought, okay? What happened? Why are we suddenly playing defense for Rick Scott? I don't get it. I'm just throwing that out there. I don't want to read the rest of this. Wait. There was an XQC call out. This is what I wasn't sure about. XQC and more call out Twitch over Hassan's unbanned. Because I had a thing pulled up that said XQC called him out, but I never saw it. So here it is, I guess. Kick staff weren't the only ones slamming Twitch over its decision to unban Hassan. Felix XQC how do you pronounce that? Lengiel? Also chimed in on the matter with some choice words for the purple platform. The purple platform. The way me and some others were treated in a comparison is just comical. What a joke. I think I did that well. I don't really like XQC that much, so I don't care. Maybe he's got a point. If anybody can, demonstrate to me that, listen, here's the thing. I stopped using Twitch, okay? Because I felt like punishments were being dished out unfairly. That was part of it. It's also just easier to have one platform, honestly. I don't like Twitch. It's owned by Amazon.
But does Arjan know Taiwan is a separate country from China? Thongas.
That's a good point. Thank you very much, Saki Tanuki, for the 5 tier 1 gifted subs. I'm pretty sure he's got some weird takes about that too, but we're not getting into that. For all intents and purposes right now, Hassan's a good guy. Everyone else sucks. All right? Let's just keep it simple today. We don't got to get into the nitty gritty. We're playing it Tim Pool style. No nitty gritty today. So, listen, I don't like Twitch. I don't like Amazon. I don't like Jeff Bezos. So I'll be the first to admit, right, that their moderation kind of sucks ass and it's not consistent. But I'm fine with him not being banned for this. If you want my honest opinion, I think that the reason they banned him in the first place was because they're finding any excuse they can to go after leftist content creators. Not even kidding. I'm not kidding. I think that was just he made himself an easy target. Just to prove my point to you, let's go over a couple of recent events that have happened. Jeff Bezos announces significant shift coming to the Washington Post. A key editor is leaving because of it. You guys might remember this story from a couple days ago. Washington Post owner Jeff Bezos on Wednesday, remember this guy owns Twitch too, announced a significant shift to the publisher's opinion page that led David Shipley, the paper's editorial page editor, to leave the paper. The changes upended precedent and rattled a media company that has already been shaken by years of turmoil and leadership turnover. As part of the overhaul, the Post will publish daily opinion stories on 2 editorial pillars: personal liberties and free markets. Bezos teased in an X post on Wednesday morning after announcing the change in a company-wide email. The Post's opinion section will cover other subjects too, Bezos wrote.
Also, technically, Rick Scott is an invasive species of snake not native to Florida.
That's probably true also. Thank you very much for another 5 tier 1 gifted subs. You're very kind, Saki Tanuki. Thank you. Let's take a look at this X post, Twitter post. I shared this note with the Washington Post team this morning. I'm writing to let you know about a change coming to our opinion pages. We are going to be writing every day in support and defense of 2 pillars, personal liberties and free markets. We'll cover other topics too, of course, but viewpoints opposing those pillars will be left to be published by others. In other words, if you write anything that goes against capitalism, you're out, buddy. There was a time when a newspaper, especially one that was a local monopoly, might have seen it as a service to bring to the reader's doorstep every morning a broad-based opinion section that sought to cover all views. Today, the internet does that job. Just straight up saying that, listen, I know that I own the news now, but I don't feel like I have a requirement to give you a broad set of views anymore. I don't feel like I need to give you all sides of the argument anymore. Just the side that benefits me, of course. Me. the owner of the news. I am of America and for America and proud to be so. I'm sure you are. All of your employees piss in bottles, but I'm sure you love America and the people living here. Our country did not get here by being typical, and a big part of America's success has been freedom in the economic realm and everywhere else. Freedom is ethical, it minimizes coercion, and practical. It drives creativity, invention, and prosperity. Yeah, it's ethical. You know, like forcing your workers to piss in bottles. I offered David Shipley, whom I greatly admire, the blah, 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 blah. Anyway, the reason I'm bringing this up is once again because Jeff Bezos is the one who owns Twitch. And I am fully convinced. Maybe this is just my tinfoil hat conspiracy theory. I'm willing to accept that. But you know what? No, it's not. No, it's not. This is just part A, okay? This is just part A of them coming after leftist content creators. Mark my words, okay? Mark my words. If you slip up even a little bit, they will come after you. They will rain down on you like hellfire, all right? And shut you down, especially if you're on Twitch now because, you know, Bezos has made his positions known. I might be a little bit safer here on YouTube, but not necessarily for long. I wanted to bring up something about Luigi again. I guess this kind of ties into the next thing I wanted to talk about. So there were people like posting funny things about Luigi and, you know, the free Luigi thing, which I may or may not ascribe to, who's to say really, you know, and that kind of posting. So they're like funny posts about Luigi, right? Funny posts about Luigi. Let's just say that. This is another funny post. It's not necessarily like just about Luigi, but you guys can kind of get the idea from what he's saying.
I'm not saying somebody should. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying anyone should. No, I'm not. Couldn't be me. You know what I mean?
True.
But if someone was going, I'm kidding, don't. I'm completely joking. Nobody should. Nobody should.
Good point.
You shouldn't. I shouldn't. Nobody should. Nobody should.
Murder is always
That's all I
bad,
gotta say.
Evan.
That's all I have to
always.
say. Just nobody.
It's against the law.
Nobody should.
No Fed posting.
And I've said that no one should. Very publicly right now, actually. I've said that nobody should. Nobody should because nobody's going to. Because nobody should.
Okay. So the reason I'm pulling this up is because I think that these kinds of videos are going to be next on the chopping block. I think what we saw with Hassan was just an indicator for what's to come. They are trying as hard as they can without, you know, rustling people's jimmies too much to crack down on popular leftist outlets and popular leftist media, okay? It's happening. I don't know how fast it will be, but mark my words. Stuff like this, which who's to know what he's actually saying, right? We don't know. But if I had to guess, stuff like this, they're going to start coming after it. So anybody who makes stuff like this could be next. Just watch. We'll see. Maybe I'm wrong, and hopefully I am, but we'll see. We'll see how bad this gets. I'm not hopeful. Anyway, as I was saying, I don't think Hassan necessarily did anything wrong. What he said was pretty spicy, but like, I'm sorry, conservatives are already fine saying that conservatives have the literal position that we should murder like criminals, that we should just within the confines of our law, just have murder legalized for our criminals and just kill them. Okay. They believe that. So I don't really take issue with what Hassan said here. He's not advocating for anybody to be killed. He was just making a very spicy point. Nonetheless, I think that this is not a good sign. We'll just say that.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to hit the like button, subscribe if you want to see more, hit the notification bell to be notified when I upload. If you enjoy my content, you enjoy what I do, I really appreciate any financial help that I can get. Go to youtube.com/AlecGunterTTV/join. You got some awesome benefits such as seeing early videos, awesome emotes that you can use in the comments of YouTube videos, and a sweet badge next to your name. So if that sounds interesting to you, I'd really appreciate if you join. It is cheaper than the cost of a blowjob from your mom. So with all that being said, thank you again for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.